Hi, in this first video, I'm going to talk about creating the basic QGIS project for data collection with merge-in maps. So this slide shows the basic schematic for working with QGIS and merge-in maps. This video, we're going to focus on the QGIS side of things. We're going to start a basic project. Once a project's been created, we can then use the plugin for merge-in maps to synchronize this project, push it up to the cloud. You can then get on your mobile device with the merge-in maps input app and download that project to the mobile device, collect your data, and then return to QGIS and use the plugin to synchronize the collected data back to QGIS desktop. These are some screenshots of what the merge-in maps input app looks like on a mobile phone. This is on my Android device, and so you'll have a projects page where you can see the status of different projects. This indicates that the project has not been downloaded yet. If I've made changes to the project that are not synchronized, I will see this icon, and one that's been downloaded and in sync will have this icon next to it. Once I open up a project, it will open it up and honor all the symbology that you've established in QGIS. And then when we go to collect data, you can use your data collection form that you've set up to collect data on the device and save it. So merge-in maps is several things. First off, it's a cloud service that allows you to store your data. It also has version management, so you can go and see the various stages of editing to a QGIS project. It also allows you to share projects. And you can see from this screenshot, you'll have your different projects listed there. And there's also a Create Project button here. So it is possible to create a simple project from merge-in maps or from the input app. But those are the most limited basic projects. What I'm going to walk you through is setting up a project in QGIS, which gives you much more flexibility in what you can do with it. Merge-in maps is also a QGIS plugin. It allows you to sync projects and data between QGIS and your mobile device. So this is a screenshot of merge-in maps in the browser panel in QGIS. It shows up as a data provider with all of your projects listed. It also has options for exploring projects or identifying projects that are shared with you. And it also comes with a small toolbar. So the basic workflow starts out with preparing a project, which we'll do here in a second. This is where you load your background layers and your survey layers, set up forms, apply styling to the layers, set up map themes if that's important for your project, and then define the layers to be used for survey purposes. So there's some project level settings that we will learn as we go through this. Once the project is set up, you can use the plugin to transfer the project to the merge-in cloud. And then you can use the input app to collect your field data, synchronize it back to the merge-in cloud, and finally go back into QGIS and use the plugin to synchronize all of your collected data to the desktop for analysis and cartography. There are some best practices. It's important that all of your data goes in a single folder for your project. This includes your project file and all of your data. It's also a good practice to use XYZ tile services or WMS, WMST services for background maps. Plugins such as Quick Map Services can also be good choices. It's also recommended that you use the GeoPackage for all of your data. So this format is what merge-in maps is designed around. So if you use the GeoPackage, the input app supports collaborative editing, meaning a team of data collectors can collect data into the same layer. And this also allows merge-in maps to track versioning for your different edits, your version history. A related best practice is to use a different GeoPackage for each survey layer. So you can have multiple survey layers. They can be point, line, polygon, and so you can set up different survey layers for different purposes out in the field. And the reason to use a different GeoPackage for each survey layer is this avoids changes to the database schema. So currently any change in a database schema can cause conflicts during sync. So examples of changing a database schema include adding or removing layers from a GeoPackage or adding or removing fields from a layer in a GeoPackage. So if you can avoid doing these operations, it'll be safer for the synchronization process. So Use a geopackage for all your data and use different geopackages for each survey layer. We're also going to distinguish between background layers, which will be things like background maps or study area boundaries, things that you're not going to collect data into, but are just going to provide context while you're out in the field collecting data, versus survey layers, which are those into which you're going to collect data. And we'll set those up in project properties. I'm going to get out of PowerPoint and switch into QGIS and show you how to set up the basic project. So here I am in QGIS, and what I'm going to start out doing is saving my folder for this project as a favorite. So I've created a folder for this project here, Data Collection Demo, and on the browser panel I'm going to right click on this and choose Add as a Favorite to make this folder easy to find. I'm then going to add a base layer to this. So I'm going to collapse my C drive here, and I'm going to go to this XYZ tiles layer. So with QGIS now, it ships with an OpenStreetMap and the MapZen global terrain layers. So I'm going to add the OpenStreetMap layer to my map canvas, and I'm going to zoom into my study area. So I'm going to be surveying for trees in this single block here. I'm also going to add the Bing imagery. This was added via URL, which is in the instructions that you'll get with this course. And I will add this to the project to add aerial imagery. So I have two base layers now for my project. Next, I'm going to add a study area boundary. So I'm going to go to the layer menu, create layer, and create a new geopackage layer. I'm going to put this into my project folder, and I'll name this study area. I'm going to make this geometry type polygon, and I'm going to use the local UTM coordinate system for this. And I don't need any attributes for this. It just is going to be a simple boundary. And I'll click OK. And I'm going to give this just a black outline. So this is just going to be a small study area near my office. And so for your project, you're also just going to identify a small study area near your home or office where you will conduct a tree survey. So for purposes of learning, this should be a fairly small area covering just a couple of blocks. So my area is going to be in Denmark. Yours will be where you're located. So our maps will differ, but the same steps will apply. And you'll use whatever local CRS makes sense for your area. So I've given my study area a black outline. I used a fill style of no brush and increased the stroke width a little bit. And now I'm going to digitize that. So I'm going to enable editing for my study area, and I'll use the add polygon feature to drag a rectangle around the area that I'll survey. Okay, I'll toggle out of editing and save my edits. Now here, my study area is in a local UTM coordinate system, and my base maps are in EPSG 3857, which is commonly used with streaming base maps these days. So since I'm using XYZ tiles, I'm going to keep my project CRS in that EPSG 3857. This prevents my mobile device from having to reproject these larger layers on the fly. It's okay if it's just going to reproject my small study area boundary and my survey layer on the fly. That's a lighter lift. That's the reasoning behind keeping this project in 3857 while my survey data is going to be in my local UTM coordinate system. Okay, next I'm going to create my survey layer. So again, this is going to be a tree survey. So I'm going to create a point layer that I will use to collect information about trees. Okay, quickly back into PowerPoint for a second just to show you the fields that I'm going to be creating with the survey layer. So this is again going to be for a tree survey. So I'm going to add these 7 or 8 fields: tree species, which will be text; tree type, which will be text; fruit tree. I'll collect the circumference as a number; photograph, date, notes, and collector. So back in QGIS, I'm going to go to the layer menu, create layer, new geopackage layer, and I'm going to put this in my same folder, but this I'll call survey. I'll create a new geopackage for my survey layer, and I'll call the layer trees. This will be a point layer, and again I'll use my local UTM coordinate system. And now I'm going to add the fields I'm going to need for my survey. So the first one is going to be tree species. This will be text. Next, I will add tree type. This will also be text. Next will be fruit tree, and I'll make this a Boolean field. This is going to just be a yes or no answer. Circumference, this will be a decimal number. Photograph, this will be text. Date, this will be date and time to record the date that the features were collected. I'm going to add a field for notes as text. And this is simply in case I encounter something out in the field that I wasn't anticipating. It's a nice catch-all field to add any additional notes that may be important for that feature. And lastly, I'll put in collector, which will be used as a placeholder to record the data collector's name. This will also be text. So there I have the fields that I'm going to add to this, and I'll go ahead and click OK. And trees is added to my map. I'm going to take a pause and save my project into the same project folder. So again, it's important that everything goes into that folder. So here I am. I will call it tree survey. So all my data and my QGIS project are all going into the same folder here. So now I'm going to spend a few moments symbolizing my tree survey layer. I'm going to select the simple marker component. I'm going to increase the size to 4. I'm going to give the stroke color a bright red, and I'll give the fill color a transparent fill. So I end up with a ring, and then I'm going to increase the stroke width 0.6, so I have a red ring. I'm now going to click this green plus button to add a symbol layer to my symbol, and I'll select the simple marker component. Instead of this being a circle, I'll make this a cross. I'll make it the same color. I will also increase the stroke width to the same 0.6 as my circle, and then increase the size of this to something like 8 until I get the appearance of a nice target symbol. So save one more time, and now that's it. I've created my basic project. In the next video, you're going to learn about some project property settings, and we'll also set up map themes in case we are going to be collecting data outside of cellular range.